In the small town of Blackthorn, nestled deep in the heart of New England, there stood an old and imposing mansion known as Blackthorn Manor. For generations, the ominous structure had cast its shadow over the town, but none could deny the eerie tales that surrounded its dark history. In the late 1800s, the manor belonged to the esteemed Blackthorn family, who were known for their wealth and influence. The patriarch, Silas Blackthorn, was a stern and reclusive man, rumored to have delved into occult practices in his pursuit of power. Whispers of secret rituals and dark ceremonies circulated among the townsfolk, adding a layer of mystique to the family's already foreboding reputation. As the story goes, tragedy struck the Blackthorn family on a fateful night in the winter of 1893. Silas Blackthorn's only son, Edgar, was found lifeless in his room, his eyes wide with terror. The official cause of death was listed as unknown, but the townsfolk believed that Edgar had fallen victim to the supernatural forces that supposedly lurked within the manor. Following Edgar's death, the once grand estate fell into disrepair, abandoned by the Blackthorn family. Over the years, tales of strange occurrences at Blackthorn Manor spread like wildfire. Locals claimed to hear disembodied whispers in the dead of night, and some swore they saw flickering lights through the broken windows, despite the manor having no electricity for decades. Intrigued by the legends, a group of friends decided to spend a night at Blackthorn Manor, hoping to uncover the truth behind the haunted tales that shrouded the mansion. Among them were Sarah, a skeptic who scoffed at the idea of supernatural phenomena, Jake, the thrill seeker, and Emma, a budding paranormal investigator armed with her camera and audio recorder. The night was cold and foggy as the group approached the decaying mansion. The moon cast an eerie glow on the overgrown ivy that clung to the walls, creating an atmosphere of palpable unease. As they stepped through the creaking front door, a shiver ran down their spines. The air inside was thick with the scent of decay, and the once opulent halls were now filled with the dust of neglect. Undeterred, the group pressed on, their footsteps echoing through the empty chambers. Emma set up her equipment, eager to capture any evidence of paranormal activity. As the clock struck midnight, the temperature in the manor seemed to drop even further. A sudden draft extinguished their lanterns, plunging them into darkness. Sarah scoffed, attributing the event to the mansion's deteriorating state, but the others couldn't shake the feeling that something more sinister was at play. In the silence that followed, they heard faint whispers echoing through the halls. The words were indistinct, like distant echoes from the past. Jake, usually fearless, felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Emma, however, saw it as an opportunity to communicate with the alleged spirits. "Is there anyone here?" Emma's voice echoed through the darkness. The group strained their ears, hoping for a response. The whispers grew more pronounced, and the temperature continued to plummet. Suddenly, a soft, childlike giggle echoed through the corridor. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. There was no mistaking it, the laughter seemed to come from the long-abandoned nursery. With trembling hands, they followed the sound, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like feeble beacons. The nursery door creaked open, revealing a room frozen in time. Dust-covered toys lay scattered on the floor, and a faded rocking chair swayed gently, as if moved by an unseen hand. Emma, determined to document the strange occurrences, pointed her camera toward the eerie scene. As the flash illuminated the room, the friends gasped in horror. The camera captured the spectral figure of a young boy, his eyes filled with sorrow. Sarah, the skeptic, stumbled backward, her disbelief shattered by the undeniable evidence before her. The air grew heavy, and the whispers intensified, forming into anguished wails that reverberated through the manor. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on ghastly shapes. The friends, paralyzed by fear, watched as the apparition of the young boy slowly faded away, leaving behind an oppressive silence. Terrified and shaken, the group fled the manor, leaving behind the haunted halls of Blackthorn Manor. The chilling encounter left an indelible mark on each of them, dispelling skepticism and confirming the town's age-old tales of supernatural occurrences within the forsaken mansion. Blackthorn Manor remained abandoned, its secrets buried within its decaying walls. The townsfolk, now vindicated in their beliefs, avoided the mansion like the plague, leaving it to stand as a silent sentinel to the mysterious events that had unfolded within its haunted confines. The whispers, however, lingered, carried by the wind through the deserted halls, a chilling reminder of the darkness that once enveloped Blackthorn Manor. It was the summer of 2019 when my friends and I decided to embark on a camping trip in the remote woods of northern Michigan. The lush greenery and the promise of untouched nature drew us in, promising an escape from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Little did we know that our adventure would turn into a chilling encounter with the unknown. Our group consisted of 4 friends: Jake, Emily, Mark, and myself, Alex. We set up camp near a serene lake, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets to each other as the wind rustled through their leaves. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor. It was the perfect setting for a campfire and some ghost stories. As darkness settled in, we gathered around the crackling flames, sharing laughter and toasting marshmallows. The night was clear, and the stars shimmered like diamonds in the vast expanse above us. Little did we know that this picturesque scene would soon be disrupted by an otherworldly presence. Around midnight, after the laughter had subsided, a strange hush fell over the woods. The usual nocturnal sounds, the chirping of crickets and distant calls of owls, were replaced by an eerie silence. It was as if the very heart of the forest had stopped beating. Unease crept into our group, and we exchanged nervous glances. That's when we heard a faint, distant whisper echoing through the trees. The words were indistinct, as if carried by the wind itself. We strained our ears, trying to make out the source of the mysterious murmur. "Did you guys hear that?" Emily asked, her voice barely audible over the unnerving quiet. Nervous laughter broke the silence as we reassured ourselves that it was probably just the wind playing tricks on our minds. However, the whisper persisted, growing slightly louder and more insistent. It seemed to beckon us, urging us to follow its haunting melody deeper into the woods. Curiosity got the better of us, and against our better judgment, we decided to investigate the source of the strange whisper. Armed with flashlights, we ventured into the darkness, the trees closing in around us like silent sentinels. The moonlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced on the forest floor. As we delved deeper, the whisper transformed into a melodic hum, resonating through the ancient trees. The air became charged with an otherworldly energy, and an inexplicable chill ran down our spines. We stumbled upon an ancient stone circle, hidden away in the heart of the forest, and at its center stood a gnarled ancient oak tree. The hum emanated from the tree, and its twisted branches seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers. As our flashlights illuminated the scene, we noticed peculiar symbols etched into the bark, symbols that felt ancient and arcane. The air pulsated with a palpable energy, and an overwhelming sense of foreboding washed over us. Just as we contemplated whether to stay or flee, the whisper coalesced into words, spoken in a language that was both alien and incomprehensible. The atmosphere thickened, and the temperature plummeted. Shadows twisted and contorted around us, taking on sinister shapes. In that moment, the ancient oak began to resonate, emitting a haunting melody that echoed through the entire forest. It was as if the very soul of the woods had awakened, and we were caught in the midst of its spectral symphony. Terrified, we tried to retreat, but an unseen force seemed to bind us to the circle. The whisper grew into an anguished wail, and the symbols on the tree glowed with an ethereal light. We were enveloped in an otherworldly presence, our senses overwhelmed by the strange energy that pulsed through the woods. Just when it seemed like the spectral forces would consume us, the melody shifted, and the atmosphere lightened. The ancient oak seemed to release us from its grip, and the symbols on its bark faded into obscurity. The haunting whispers dissipated, leaving us standing in the silent woods, bewildered and shaken. We stumbled back to our campsite, the memory of the chilling encounter etched into our minds. The forest, once inviting and mysterious, now felt like a realm of ancient secrets and unseen forces. As we packed up the next morning, we couldn't shake the feeling that we had brushed against something beyond our understanding, a whispering presence that lingered in the depths of the woods, waiting to be discovered by those daring enough to venture into the unknown.
As the moon hung low in the night sky, casting a ghostly glow over the vast dark ocean, a group of friends set sail on a late-night cruise. Laughter and excitement filled the air as the boat cut through the gentle waves, creating ripples that sparkled in the moonlight. Unbeknownst to them, an abandoned ship emerged on the horizon, a silent behemoth marooned in the vastness of the open sea. Intrigue gripped a group as they pondered the mystery that shrouded the derelict vessel. With a daring spirit and an insatiable curiosity, they altered their course and approached the abandoned ship. The closer they got, the more its ominous presence became apparent. Rust-covered metal, broken windows, and decaying wood gave it an air of desolation. As the friends navigated their way onto the abandoned ship, flashlights in hand, they were met with an unsettling silence. that seemed to reverberate through the very core of the vessel. The air felt thick, and an eerie fog clung to the walls, obscuring their vision. The friends, however, were undeterred, and with a sense of adventure, they began to explore the ship's mysteries. The first corridors they traversed were filled with the distant echoes of their own footsteps, the occasional creak of the ship, and the rhythmic drip of water from unseen leaks. Each room they entered revealed a snapshot of a bygone-era discarded furniture, faded wallpaper, and remnants of a life once lived. As they ventured deeper into the ship, the atmosphere became increasingly oppressive. The fog seemed to congeal into phantom shapes that danced on the periphery of their vision. Whispers, faint but persistent, accompanied them as they moved through the labyrinthine passageways. Despite the encroaching darkness, the friends pressed on, drawn by an inexplicable force that beckoned them into the heart of the abandoned vessel. The ship appeared to have an infinite number of rooms, each one more dilapidated and foreboding than the last. Shadows flickered in corners, and an occasional gust of wind through broken windows created ghostly moans. It was as though the ship itself was alive with a mysterious energy that seemed to pulse through the corroded metal and crumbling wood. The friends' flashlights cast long, distorted shadows on the walls, adding to the growing unease. They exchanged nervous glances, attempting to shake off the sensation that they were being observed. Whispers, now more distinct, seemed to echo through the holes, but every attempt to locate their source proved futile. Suddenly, a disconcerting realization swept over the group. They were lost. The once familiar passageways became a confusing maze that seemed to shift and change as they navigated it. Attempts to retrace their steps led to dead ends, and rooms they swore they hadn't entered before loomed in front of them. The oppressive air weighed heavily on their shoulders as a creeping sense of dread settled in. In the midst of their panic, one of the friends vanished without a trace. The remaining group called out, their voices echoing through the deserted corridors. But there was no response. The abandoned ship, silent and indifferent, held on to its secrets, as if absorbing the very essence of the missing friend. A chill settled over the remaining friends as they stood in the dimly lit hallway, haunted by the sudden disappearance. Time seemed to stretch, and a somber silence enveloped them. With trepidation, they pressed on, determined to find an exit and escape the clutches of the forsaken vessel. As they continued their search, the ship's malevolent presence seemed to intensify. Shadows morphed into sinister shapes, and the air crackled with an otherworldly energy. Yet, despite the palpable fear that gripped them, the source of the darkness remained elusive, always lurking just beyond the edge of their perception. Their only hope was to ascend to the upper decks, and after what felt like an eternity of winding staircases and narrow passages, they emerged onto the moonlit deck. Relief washed over them as the cool ocean breeze brushed against their faces. However, their relief was short-lived as they realized their own boat was nowhere in sight. Panic set in once again as they scanned the dark waters for any sign of their means of escape. It was as if the ocean had swallowed their boat, leaving them stranded on the haunted vessel. The oppressive presence seemed to close in, shadows becoming more menacing as they desperately searched for any sign of salvation. Just as hope seemed to slip away, the friends spotted a distant light on the horizon. A rescue ship approached, breaking through the darkness like a beacon of salvation. With a mix of exhaustion and gratitude, they were pulled aboard, leaving the haunted vessel behind. Days later, safe on solid ground, the remaining friends sat in a dimly lit room, attempting to make sense of their harrowing experience. They recounted their journey through the abandoned ship, the disappearance of their friend, and the inexplicable events that transpired within its haunted halls. As they exchanged stories, a chilling realization dawned on them: they couldn't remember the missing friend. His face, his name, even his presence on the boat, seemed to have evaporated from their memories. Each friend recounted the journey differently, but the one constant was the absence of the vanished companion. The twist lay in the unsettling void that had replaced the missing friend's existence in their collective memory. It was as if the dark presence on the abandoned ship had not only claimed his physical form, but had also erased him from the very fabric of their recollections. The friends, haunted by the unknowable force that had twisted their reality, were left to grapple with the lingering uncertainty that permeated their lives. The true nature of the dark presence remained a mystery, an enigma that they could never fully comprehend. The abandoned ship, now a distant memory, loomed in the recesses of their minds, a haunting reminder of a nightmarish journey that had stolen more than just the present. It had robbed them of a friend, leaving an indelible mark on their souls.